Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It is super great to have this opportunity to connect with everyone on this beautiful day, seeing a little bit of the blue sky. And so just sending out all of our thanks to our firefighters and keeping our families safe. My name is Diane Lauer. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Priority Programs here in St. Vrain Valley Schools. And I'm really excited to be here with you today. Just wondering how you are feeling today as well. And I think it might be an opportunity just to go to that next slide. We'll just kind of skip this one as we're all reflecting on how we're feeling. It's an important thing to do. I'm going to introduce my friend Martine, who's going to start share with you our topic for today.
Hello, beautiful people of Boulder County and Department of Housing and Human Services. Thank you for being with us today. Sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're up and running. I just want to say that I am not reporting from a mid-century dungeon or torture chamber. I'm actually coming live to you from my unfinished basement. But this is the reality that I live in right now, right? I have two kiddos, virtual learning upstairs, and then one little one that's running around the house, just having adventures everywhere, right? So this presentation for me is going to be very beneficial, right? And I just want to remind everybody that this presentation is not to talk about school plans or policies. It's more to talk about creative strategies, resources, and support for parents that have school-age children, right? Even if you don't have school-age children, you may work with families that have children. You may be an uncle, an auntie. You may have friends who have children, right? And so all this information would be beneficial to share because we all need help right now, right? If a friend would come to me and tell me, hey, I have these cool strategies for you to use on your kids, that is awesome. So we're gonna have leaders from St. Vrain and Boulder Valley School District present to you healthy topics and also finding a balance and learning successfully and these strange things, right? Being a parent is hard. Being a parent during a pandemic through social unrest, right, is super triple hard. And now they're asking me to be a teacher at home to my kids. Right, my head is going to explode. So I'm glad that our leadership, that feedback from you actually made this presentation happen. So I'm going to throw it back over to Diane and Margaret, and they're going to start this awesome presentation for you guys.
Wonderful. Well, as we engage, and thank you so much for that of our thinking, Martine. We know that entering in, you may have some hats that you're wearing and some concerns, and so one of the things we thought about are just our own emotions that we bring into remote learning and how that needs to be managed. We're also thinking about your area as an employee and perhaps as a parent. And so you may be thinking about how can I support students academically in the remote learning environment? And we're also thinking about how we might be able to support students emotionally in this remote learning environment. So you don't need to do this. We'll move through this slide right now and on to the next one, number 4. And Margaret, could you share a little bit with us about how stress is normal?
Hi, good morning, everyone. What a great opportunity to be here. I think anytime that we can come together as a community, it's really, really imperative so that we know how to manage our own stress and our own system. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Margaret Crespo. I'm an area superintendent in the Boulder Valley School District for the Southwest Network. And just super grateful for all of you that are on this call today, really taking care of yourselves and your families while you're trying to manage all of the other stressors is incredibly, incredibly challenging. And we want to recognize that we're here to, as much as possible, provide that support. So when we think about that stress, I think one of the things that we've worked with our own staff and even with our own students in our remote classrooms is to really just take a deep breath. And when you find yourself a little bit off kilter or something's frustrating, you know, I have two at home. I have a 4-year-old and an 11-year-old, and both of them have very different needs. They know, like, we're doing a lot of belly breaths at home. And as a matter of fact, my 4-year-old said to me the other day, I think you need a belly breath. And I was like, whoa, it's working, right? So just thinking about taking deep breaths, making sure that we're all recognizing the level of human that we are, we're doing the best we can. And as many of us are trying to be super parent, super employee, super community member, we have to give ourselves a lot of grace and compassion and understand that everybody's in that space and that we're really trying to do the best that we absolutely can. And that really it's about, we use the graphic about making sure that you're putting your own mask first, right? Especially for our kids, they look at all the stressors that we're under and our neighbors, and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So think about that oxygen mask going on first before you're putting it on for your children. And then the last thing I'll share is a quick story about making sure that you are taking time for yourself. We all want to be amazing at what we do, and it's bigger than belly breaths. It's a lot of making sure that even if it's 10 minutes a day, you're stopping and really taking account where you are in your mindset. And we all know this is the work we do, so that you're totally connecting with self, so that you can be there for those around you and hold the whole in a way that makes sense for you. And I will hand it off. Oh, actually, I will not. So next slide. I just want to take a quick thanks and say to our ECE departments for coming together to develop this kind of planning around early childhood and remote development. We've heard over and over again how difficult it is. As I mentioned with a 4-year-old, that remote learning is really hard. Little ones need a lot of development. They need a lot of gross motor movement. They need to make sure that they have lots of breaks. And what I would say is, please absolutely take those breaks. The districts have come together and tried as much as possible to develop sheets and documents, and you can see those highlighted. They're hyperlinked there so that you can look at those fact sheets on what are the things that you should do, how often kids should have breaks, what does that look like for screen time, how do we use the learning that they're doing in that screen time that connects to other things, using blocks and activity times and talking through what they were doing and connecting exercises maybe to the letters that they were doing. We fully recognize that our computers will never take the place of our incredible ECE staff and teachers for our littles, but we want to make sure that we're connecting in ways with our family. And I'm a silver lining person, and what an incredible opportunity, as stressful and heavy as it is, to be able to connect with our kids in a way that we never have in their learning. And lots of our parents and teachers have reached out and said, I need strategies. And what we've tried to do is develop what those strategies can look like. And we use a Vanderbilt University study. They've shared some information around what it can look like at home. How do you focus on the relationship so that you, as Martin said before, like, I'm now the teacher. How do we make sure that you're not feeling overwhelmed by being that support for your teacher in the classroom, as well as at home? And then there are helpful hints for completing schoolwork and then problem solving things that are difficult. And reach out. What I would say is, please reach out to your teachers and to your support when there are things that are difficult. I was sharing about yesterday, I forgot my child's mask when we were going somewhere, and I was lucky enough that somebody was there to help me. And it's okay to reach out for those support systems and help. So if we move to the next slide, one of the things that we really try to focus on as well is the emotional support, right? One thing is the academic learning and the technology and the desire to have kids learning, but we also know that in early childhood, that social, emotional play component is absolutely incredibly important, right? We want our students to overall be happy, and in a stressful environment, the way to make sure that that's happening is that they are feeling safe and secure through this process. So we've provided some resources for those strategies to make sure that kids feel like they're safe and secure, that they're seen in this environment when things can easily become overwhelming. And we've provided that information there for you as well in those links. We'll all be happy, and in a stressful environment, the way to make sure that that's happening is that they are feeling safe and secure through this process. So we've provided some resources for those strategies to make sure that kids feel like they're safe and secure, that they're seen in this environment when things change. All right, so as we move to the next slide, those learning resources, right? I don't know how many of you have focused on PBS Kids and that And it's been really helpful for me as a parent and for me as an educator talking about coronavirus. The 11-year-old I'll share has, what happens if I get sick? What does that look like? What happens to you? And PBS Kids has really done an incredible job with providing resources for families. And the same with all of the links that you see there. We've provided a variety of ways to connect with your student, with your child, with your families that you're working with around how to understand what are the circumstances, how to feel safe, how to connect in easy communication ways so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. Sometimes the medical components and sometimes the safety features are really, really scary. And we want to make sure that we're doing it in an easy, interactive way. And then we also added some conscious discipline for COVID learning at home, making sure that our kids don't feel that it's their fault or that there's a level of punishment. And then, of course, how to make mask wearing fun. I've used that one quite a bit. We really want to make sure it's really difficult. They don't necessarily understand when they're super little. And what's interesting is that it's a lot like seatbelts. So now when we go somewhere, the first thing that we talk about is like putting on your seatbelt and making sure you're wearing your mask. And these strategies have been really helpful moving us forward into this learning environment. Because when we do eventually come back, there will be mask wearing opportunities on a regular basis, if not always. So we want to make sure that they're ready and that it doesn't seem like an additional expectation at that time. We can move on to slide 7. And then so what I would say is I think one of the pieces that we're really working on is that new normal, right? What does it look like? How do I make a safe space at home, whether that's your dungeon marking or, your undone basement, making sure that there are routines. One of the things that's really helpful is that we get up every day at the same time, like we would if we were going to school. We make those connections around practicing our alphabet or counting so that they're seeing the connection to those structures, psychologically connecting school to not being in a totally different place. And then thinking about screen time and developmental stages. And I would say that both districts have worked very hard to make sure that it's appropriate to age. We recognize that, and both districts super well known nationally for the work around PK and ECE and our younger littles. And we want to make sure that screen time is appropriate. Lots of physical movement. What a great opportunity to get ourselves out there on a regular basis, exercising. We take lots of breaks throughout the day, making sure that our kids are stretching and that we're stretching and that those times are not focused on academic or education, but really relationship building and that human connection. And I'm handing it over to Diane.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Margaret, for demonstrating very clearly with your puppy dog that the at-home learning space is very different. We've all created a new norm. And, in the academic setting, like this is the new norm, right? And so some of the best advice I have heard is when you are helping the people you work with as a community leader or taking a look at your own at-home learning space, stay off Pinterest. That is not reality. You need to take a look around, and we get it. And educators, we are dealing with the same thing too. So many of our teachers, just like Margaret, have their own children at home, and we are managing it right along with those you serve and you yourself. And so I would love to introduce Sandra Vasquez, and she is going to share with you how you can help as a community leader and help your own homes. Creating that structure is really critical for all of our students, for the littles all the way up to our 12th graders. So Sandra, share with us what you've learned. We can take a look at the next slide. Well, I'm just going to start talking about the next slide, and maybe we'll get to see it. And I'm not sure if Sandra's on. So the first thing you need to do is select a space. And before you select a space, you really want to think about how your child learns best. Just like Margaret knew that that she has 2 boys and they're very different, you know that children are different. Do they need to move around? Can they sit for a long time? Do they prefer quiet space, or do they like to have some kind of soft music or something in the background? Do you need to have a lot of supplies close by? And we really recommend a clean surface. Think about those distractions that may cause learning interruptions, and think about your child's level for being able to manage distractions. Take a look around before you select a space, and we really think about knowing your child. And the other recommendation that we have found works really well for our families and for our educators is to involve the child in the process of creating that learning space. That is really critical to create that sense of ownership and that sense of place for that child. The next we want to talk about, well, what should that space look like? When you designate a space for learning, you want to think about, well, you know, not everybody has a spare room in their house. So what can you do? Well, there might be a corner in your home. There might be an opportunity where you could put up a kind of a blind or something that gives some level of privacy that shuts off some of those distractions. A kitchen table might work, even if it's just a corner and clean. A sofa with a folding table, the floor with a fluffy pillow. You're going to want to think about even having different spaces for the different activities during the day. Your child will be engaging in synchronous learning, that real-time learning, kind of like what we're doing right now as part of this Teams space. And there will also be that time where there's asynchronous learning, where they're going to be working on some activities or projects or watching learning videos on their own. And so you may have different spaces. And it should be comfortable and hopefully as ergonomic as possible. Good posture really helps our brain to engage in learning. So designate that space, and the next step is to get organized. It's really important to think about how you might create a clean, decluttered space. Remember, less is more. Get rid of all those items that aren't needed and focus on the school supply. Take a look, how might you and your child really help decorate and work together? Let them take ownership and be creative with their space. And, you know, it's a prototype, and we're all both STEM districts. So what you start with is your best thinking at the time. After a few days, reflect on the space. Is the space working for us? If not, look for something else. Keep the kids energized. That is really important. Nothing is more important than routines for all of our learners, for our 4-year-olds all the way up to our 18-year-olds. Eating healthy, having access to breakfast is really important. It keeps their energy levels up and giving that opportunity for brain breaks, especially during the asynchronous time too. Help your clients, help your own children create a schedule so they're taking those breaks away from their work time even when it's not synchronous. If we take a look at the next slide,
Diane, I'm able to be on the call now.
Oh, I'm so great, Sandra. I missed you.
You've done an excellent job presenting these slides. Thank you so much.
All right.
Can you tell me the number of slides, because the what I see on the screen seems to be different than what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you know, we're going to go to the next slide about creating a nook to read. And Sandra Vasquez is our early literacy coordinator. And reading is really at home. So if we could switch to the next slide, Sandra, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about reading at home and why it's so important to have a reading nook.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. What a pleasure it is for me to be here and be able to join you, not only as a teacher and a reading specialist, but as a parent. I have 3 boys. One is on the 10th grade and 2 in college. But I have lived this journey with you, and I know it's not easy. So what I'm presenting right now are some of the things that worked for me, and I think they can work for you. So on this slide with create a nook to read, as it is, our students are going to be sitting for long periods of time doing synchronous and doing asynchronous work. If we can provide them with different places, different corners, just for different purposes, that helps the mind shift to a different mentality mode. And so here are some ideas. I did try doing boxes with my children when they were little, and it was just an amazing success. Just a big box that I got from Walmart or from Costco. And they got to decorate it, and it just created that ownership and that special place for them to go and do reading. And then, of course, we had our timeout place. That was absolutely a different place where never they were allowed to take a book, because a book was never a punishment, right? So these are some ideas. It can be just a corner, but we know that children, even up to fifth grade, I think that they would enjoy having a little privacy, a little place to just go in and relax and be out of the way and ignore everybody else. So these are just some ideas. If we could go to the next slide, please. On this one, talk to your children. What a great opportunity we have right now to have our children close to us for longer periods of time. And I know it's hectic. I know it's difficult, but it is a great opportunity for us to connect with them at a higher level and to listen to them. Not only listening to their feelings and thoughts, but also listening to their language patterns. If they always use words like, "Oh, I like this TV show. I like to eat soup." They're always using the word "like." This is a great opportunity for us to embed different words so that they can start internalizing more vocabulary and elevating their vocabulary so that they can expand their thinking and expand their writing expressions. So, I see you enjoy watching this program. What's interesting about it? Asking a lot of open-ended questions. Try to stay away from, "Did you like it?" Because then that only leaves a yes or no answer. So try to give your kids open-ended questions all day long while you're cooking. "Hey, help me cook this recipe," and talk to them about the story about why is it that you like cooking that recipe in the first place. I usually tell my kids how when I was growing up, we were 5 kids, so my mom made a lot of caldos, soups, chicken soup, beef soup, vegetable soup, fish soup, because she could do a lot of, she could make a big bowl of soup and feed all of us. So that's part of my story, and I want them to know why is it that I make soups at home as well. So this is a great opportunity for me to ask, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite ingredient? If you had to create a soup, what would you make? Let's try it. So what a wonderful opportunity to help your children elevate that oral language, which is highly important. Remember, the limits of our vocabulary are our limits of our world. Without having knowledge of vocabulary and words and being able to articulate them, we put limits for our children in the way they express themselves at school, at the store, with you, and the way they'll be expressing their thoughts through writing. So now, if we go to the next slide, please. I'm going to show you how I do it even now at home. These are some pictures from my refrigerator. And let me tell you a little bit about them. My kids still eat all day long, right? So I know they're going to come to the refrigerator multiple times a day. So in my house, I always try to hit vocabulary words that come across through conversations, through what's happening in football, or what's happening on the news in politics, or social justice, whatever. So these are just examples. If you see the first one, I have a little clip from a quote from Martin Luther King, And I put that one up there in February, right? And the quote says, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." And so from that little quote, I selected 2 words that I wanted my children to focus on, expose them to them, and have them practice them, because I reward them with silly things like, hey, whoever gives me, whoever uses this word today, I'll make your favorite dish, or you get to drive the car, or whatever. So this is a way for me. I just use sticky notes, and then whoever comes and puts the definition or a picture to represent that word, they just get something special from me. Nothing tangible. I mean, I'm not paying them money. I used to, but now I'm broke with college fees, so I cannot do that anymore. But I asked them, hey, can you do a picture? How would you do a picture to represent this word? On the next picture, I had synchronous and asynchronous. Why? Because this is the vocabulary that we're living right now. And I want my children to use it. And even if they were in first grade, I want them to start using this level of vocabulary, at least exposing them to them, because they need to acquire all this knowledge. The other pictures that I have, my kids, well, I have 3 boys, and I'm just going to be honest, they call themselves stupid all the time, right? So I put this little piece of paper with synonyms, so that they can use different words to call each other if they want to offend each other. At least I want them to use different words. And I'm showing you this not because I mean, and I'm sorry if it's offensive to anybody, but this is my reality at home. I want my children to use this. So I didn't put a picture of the actual piece of paper because they did write things, lines and saying, hey, this is Ricardo, everything you do is idiotic or whatever, So at least I know they're engaging with these visuals that I have on the refrigerator. And finally, I talk to them about sex, about the brain, about the frontal lobe, about executive functioning. And when I put this picture up about the brain right here, having boys, knowing how the frontal lobe is where the executive functioning is happening and how it's developed much later in life for boys, I always let them know that when they're making a decision, they really need to slow down and think things through. So this is a way for me to develop opportunities for conversation. And it has helped me, my kids sometimes, even though I'm a reading specialist, for when they became teenagers, they didn't want to read anymore. So having these little clips like the Martin Luther King one provided me an opportunity to bring content to them, bring history, bring vocabulary. And so we made also a deal that my kids read a little column from the newspaper every day in whatever topic. I don't care, but they need to come and tell me about it. And they usually come, hey, I learned a new word. So these are some of the ways that I hope can help you if you have teenagers at home, or I think that these things are things that you can do with any for students at any age. So that's my piece. I hope you found this information helpful.
All right, next slide, please. We're going to hand it over to Mike Lowe.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much for all of that. I hope everyone can hear me. This is Mike Lowe. I'm the Director of Student Services in our Southwest Network and work with Margaret. It's kind of fitting that I get to talk about tech help and troubleshooting, as I had a bit of a trouble trying to get on myself. So anyway, I wanted to talk just really quickly about the learning platforms that are in both St. Vrain and Boulder Valley. As you can see, we both have similar learning platforms for our younger kids using Seesaw, and then as we move up, both using Schoology. St. Vrain does use WebEx, and then we both use Infinite Campus as our grading. I know St. Vrain, as we do, say always you can call our school, because that's what we're trying to do, is really make it easy for parents to get a hold of us. But definitely for IT support in Boulder Valley, we do have a resources page, which Margaret's going to talk about really quickly on the next slide, but also the service desk phone number, which is the 720-561-HELP number, and they are there to be able to help you walk through that. Once again, if you look at Boulder Valley, if you look at our Family Learning Hub, which is right there on our website, and once again, Margaret will go through that again, it really works through a lot of the questions and answers that you may have and where to direct concerns to. In St. Vrain, the reopening plan is on the district website, and they do have the connection right there, along with how to get your internet access and all of the learning resources there. Diane, did you want to throw anything else in that one on St. Vrain?
No, but thanks so much, Mike. Let's go forward and learn about the Family Learning Hub. Thank you.
All right, next slide, Margaret.
All right, I want to just make sure that we know that in St. Vrain Valley School District, when we were prepping, I was super impressed with how each of the websites in the schools have their information right there for parents to drive to that website to see what's happening both in their schools as well as any help they might need. And additionally, in Boulder Valley, we have a main page that we're using on our website that is called the Family Learning Hub. So if you or family members or clients need support, needing anything from us, that's the way to get there. You just go on that Family Learning Hub, and it includes all of the components, both in Spanish and English, all of the learning platforms. We've developed videos in Spanish and English for families and community to listen, to figure out some of the technical difficulties or questions that we've had. And we also have a way to give us feedback. So if there is a topic that you feel like you need more information on, you can provide us feedback through this Family Learning Hub at Let's Talk BVSD, sorry. And you can give us feedback about an area that you might need some support from. And I think I can speak for both school districts. We're so grateful. We know that the first day launch, you know, there are always some technical difficulties, and our families were so gracious and so helpful understanding where we were, and just wanted to share our appreciation for that. And we can move on to the next slide. And take it away, Diane.
Yeah, awesome. And so, you know, Margaret was right. We have a link on every school webpage. That is the landing spot for many, many, many of our families. And so you can get to this from there as well, but this is from our main page. It is our reopening plan, and then the left-hand corner, you'll see the link to the Technology Support Center, and then you'll also see on the bottom right a contact us. This is also a place where you can just give us some feedback, as well as letting us know if your technology isn't working or what your needs are. And then all your requests are routed to all of our different departments so that we can support you. And if you look at the next slide, we have the same thing in Spanish. And so all of our videos and all of our contacts and information is provided in that way too. So these two pages are really great. And then our next slide, at this time, I'm just going to take a few belly breaths because it's a lot of information. Thank you, Martine. I see you working with me. You know, there's a lot to digest, and there's a lot to learn, but we are absolutely, both districts, we're here for you, and we are learning together. And so I think our next slide, we've got Mike and Ben ready from our St. Vrain Attendance and Engagement Office, who remind us that, you know, really, it's all about people. That's why we're here. And I'm not sure.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
All right, good. Hey, so you guys, my name is Ben. I'm at St. Vrain, and if anybody was whose job it was to bust people's chops before the coronavirus, it was me. So I'm an attendance boy, like think truancy. Where's your kid? Your kid is falling behind. Your kid ditched 7th hour. Your teacher's upset because your kid isn't turning stuff in. That's not usually how I talk, but I'm just saying, if anyone was going to be busting chops in St. Vrain, it would be me. But that said, we are doing the exact opposite right now, and I know Boulder Valley is doing the exact same opposite. We understand people are experiencing grief and trauma and illness and loss of income, and people have childcare crises. We're in the middle of like a racial reckoning in our country. Like, we understand that people's lives are not so clean cut, and it's not about clicking on and just plowing straight ahead with like education per usual. We are putting people first. So one of my favorite quotes here from Dr. Brad Johnson is like, relationships before rigor, grace before grades, patience before programs, and love before lessons. This is something that all our teachers are also hearing. Yes, we're trying to move ahead. We're trying to make the best of a tough situation and not let kids like fall too far behind with the coronavirus and just the isolation we're living in. But we are putting people first. Boulder Valley and St. Vrain Valley, we have social emotional learning curriculums that are already in place, and we're going to push those even harder. I'm not going to go into length about what those are, but certainly if you're interested in a social emotional learning program, that wellness program, please contact each of your school and talk about what they're doing and how you can get your kids involved. The basic concept of all SEL, social emotional learning, is like we use our strengths and our natural resources to lift ourselves out of this confusion and despair that's all around us, right? Like, what do we have going for us already? Let's use the lens of resilience. How have you gotten through this so far? How come we've made it even this far, even though things look tough? Like, wow, what have you leaned into to just keep your head above water? You're amazing. What's going on? How can we build on whatever those strengths were? And so, like, constantly seeing things from a resilience point of view. We are, in all our schools, we're trying to like put together community groups, so we're not just that little academic productivity machines, you know, like we are community. Even as we're isolated from a home, we are community. Many of our schools are putting together virtual student support groups and virtual parent support groups, just to let people voice and try to normalize whatever you're living. You know, we don't necessarily have answers to everything, but we are with you, and we understand that people, parents, individuals, we need to prioritize our needs. And we also understand that we are not necessarily the answer to everybody's dilemma, and school isn't always going to be the thing, our life draft, so to speak, right? So we have counselors and interventionists in our schools. Please contact them. Tell them about their specific needs. What's going on in your family? How can we connect you to like the people who can get you there if we can't do it ourselves, right? Community mental health partners, and certainly crisis lines, as you see if you're looking at the slides, that 1844 number at the bottom. Be well. We are rooting for you guys, and we will do anything we can to make sure that you as a human being and your family as human beings are being successful right now, despite struggles with the academics.
Thanks, Ben. That's awesome. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody here today. You know, you guys can get in touch with any of us anytime. Here's our contact information. And so we are looking forward to answering some questions. That's our last slide. And so I'm not sure how the chat thing works, but I know my good friend Martine is going to help us field some of those questions that have been that are out there.
Definitely. I'm not just here to smile and write everything down that you guys just said. I'm actually here to do some work as well and help you guys out. I just want to say, oh my God, that is a lot of valuable information, and I'm not gonna lie to you, to all my peeps out there. We gave these leaders a little bit of time to get this presentation ready, and they brought it. They brought all this great information to us. So we're gonna go ahead and answer some questions that you guys have. I think there's a few questions here on the chat. I think one of the first questions that were asked was, my son is in the 6th grade at BVSD. I'm concerned about the amount of time he has for breaks through the day. The 100-minute class time with only a 10-minute break is just not enough time to decompress. How should I address this issue with the school? Would somebody from BVSD please answer that question? And also St. Vrain. Yeah.
Absolutely, and thanks for that question. So what I would say is, first, I would connect with the teacher specifically and see if there's something that can be done in the class. And then overall, I would certainly reach out to the principal, because one of the things that we're doing, as Diane mentioned, is we're checking in a lot and saying, how can we make this better? What does this look like? So if the breaks don't seem like they're enough, or the connections are not often enough, we have set up engagement parameters with our teachers and with our parents, and just saying, hey, it's not enough time, we'll make the adjustments that we need to, because obviously 100 minutes is a long time, and we're hoping, and that's just one example, but even throughout the entire system, if at any time your students are struggling, reach out to your teacher first, and then reach out to your principal, so that we can make as many adjustments as possible.
Diane or Sandra, do you guys want to answer that for St. Vrain as well?
Yeah, I would love to just chime in a little bit. And you know, reaching out and calling is so important. And we are flexing. We're doing learning as we can, and we know that every structure is going to be needs to be a little bit modified for different students. And so, whatever you can do to contact the teacher or the principal and to let folks know. I know that our teachers are also in the process of contacting families. I would say, you know, this little thing right here, this phone, like this is still sometimes the best piece of technology. My niece this week got calls from her teachers because she wasn't turning in her math homework and she wasn't turning in her English homework. And even though my sister was in Schoology and she was seeing all these assignments, they didn't know how to turn it in. And so that phone call from the teacher really, really helped. So you should be getting calls from our staff as well. And if you haven't gotten one yet, I know we're one more week in school than BVSD, so you will be getting those. That is the lifeline. We are in this together.
Yeah, and definitely, and communication is the key, guys. I had a conversation with my little pollito's teacher this morning, actually, right, where I felt like he was on the computer for too long without any breaks, and we worked it out. We actually created a plan just for him, and he will be able to take a little bit extra breaks, and just do some things off the computer as well, right? So communication is the key there, guys. Another great question that we have here is. Um, the resources are only, these resources are only for same rate regulars. So will we need to contact Flagstaff Academy directly for help, right? I think that's a same rate question, either Diane, Sandra, or Ben.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Boulder Valley, but our charter schools, they typically have their own technology and they have their own schedule. And some of our schools are, you know, still coming back face to face. So we want you to call your school directly, especially the charter schools. Thank you.
Same for Boulder Valley.
All right, let's go along here. We got more questions. Let me just find myself here. 1 second, guys. Here we go. This is great info. Thank you so much, it says. I'm wondering, though, if there are some more resources on how we can balance our work in teaching our children. The more breaks and time I take from work, the more stressed I feel about falling behind there. What are ways I can try and balance this while taking of myself, my family, and my work, while thinking about myself, my family, and my work? So what would be a good balance there?
So I'll jump in, having shared that I have two at home that I'm trying to balance, and I'll also share probably more than you want. I also run a farm, so definitely been taxing on our circumstances. And my husband is an essential worker. So what I would say is trying to find that balance is building in the breaks that don't always include you. So one of the things we've done is, and we all have this at home, I'm sure, like you want your children to learn chores and systems and work to be part of the community. So make sure that I have a break in time when they don't have a break. So that, I mean, they have a break when I don't have a break, and they're doing a chore, moving the trash, throwing the garbage. I even have the little one emptying out the dryer. They're also skills that they still like at this age, and it helps me be able to take my own time to focus on work, and they're getting active breaks. Sometimes we feel like we have to connect with them all the time, and the reality is that they also need some of that level of independent. And then we have some boundaries and parameters around, like right now I'm on this live call and somebody tried to interrupt me a few minutes ago. So what does that mean, right? So working through some of that.
Yeah, can I chime in on that one too? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ben here, the same thing. I think that it's so important, like the chance to create breaks and create that space and have academics be a huge part of what our kids are doing, but also those other things, the mind, body, and spirit, and create the structures around that. I always kind of think of this time period as like, what if we were lost alone on a deserted island? What if we were locked in jail? We're in solitary confinement, right? Like, what's the enemy? The enemy is madness. The enemy is just everything being new and messy and strange and sloppy and scary. And what's our life raft? Our life raft can be discipline. And that's like the marriage of routine and structure, right? So Try to get dominion over like your own self-discipline as a parent or as an employee, as a spouse, and then demonstrate to your family how they can do the same, right? Have fun, like with the mind, like, hey, I'm going to learn 10 new Spanish words this week. Hey, projects, I'm going to take apart my lawnmower and I'm going to try to put it together next week and see what happens, right? Like, share your projects, get each other excited with your body. Of course, we talk about workouts and fitness and hikes and yoga. I remember when I was potty training my kids, we had a little sticker chart next to the toilet where you get a little yellow sticker for, number one, and a little brown sticker for number two. Like, do a sticker chart every time you guys do a workout. Like, put a little sticker chart, and then treat yourself with like whatever. Go to see a movie, or like go out and get ice cream. If everyone in the family does their stickers, the spirit, the creativity, the play, the nature. Try to build all of these things and structures, and of course, the free time. Because if we create these anchors of fun, it will help us get through these otherwise messy times.
Yeah, that's really good feedback and information. One of the things that I do with my pollito is, as you can see, we like to eat. I like food, and so in the mornings he helps me. He helps me prepare the food. I have him break eggs so we can make some scrambled eggs. So kids are curious and they just want something to do, right? So we have to find that balance. Here's another question for you guys. It's my kids are in SVVSD. I don't think they're in class enough. The teachers will have them on for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. They both have too much free time in between classes, maybe because school just started, but I think there should be more class time. And I know that because some of my kids are doing virtual learning, there is an option for kids to do extracurriculars or extra stuff, or look into other apps that are educational as well. Who would like to answer that one?
I would love to just chime in a little bit. Thanks so much, Martine. It's Diane. And, yeah, this is finding that sweet spot. We hear some are saying like, hola. We're hearing some is too much and some might be too little. And so please reach out to your teacher if you're needing more time or more structure. Most of our secondary students are following that regular schedule, and so they have the 4 periods a day every other day in high school, or there's 6 periods a day in middle school, and they should be coming in like every hour, like clocking in with the WebEx, clocking in an hour later. And so we got feedback in the spring from our parents that more structure was beneficial. So if you're really feeling like you need a little bit more, just like Martine did, talk to your child's teacher and identify some ways that can be helpful for you.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to the next one. Please, somebody tell me when to stop or if I'm going over. This is a lot of good information and we have a lot of good questions. And I just want to make sure that I'm on track here. But the next question is, my kiddos are having a hard time navigating Google Classroom and the external web pages and keeping track of all the different platforms. Any tips on how we can create a checklist or something that is clear?
Yeah, I think that, I don't want to say that the answer is always talking to your teacher, but one of the things that we've asked our teachers to do in St. Vrain is to really streamline all the clicking. And so trying to have everything in Schoology so it's one click and then they can get there, that is really important. It can be a challenge for the secondary students to go from class to class, but we are absolutely working on trying to funnel everything inside of Schoology so that is the link. And so if you are having a challenge with all the links, call your teacher and say, might you be able to provide me one list with all the little links that I can go through? And one of the things we've given our teachers to give out to their school parents is just like Sandra was showing, like, here's a refrigerator piece of paper, put it all on one. Some of our teachers have been making those little QR codes that so you can even take your computer right up to the code if typing in all the little things are challenging or for some reason your hyperlinks aren't working. So looking for a place that maybe you can put it in that little nook or put it on the refrigerator. Once you get that list of links, that can help you have everything in one place.
And I would just add the same, where our expectations are the same. We're trying to single link. We do know that with 2 platforms, sometimes it becomes a little difficult. And I'll share a little tidbit. What we did was set up a system where we check in the morning. My kids and I check in literally 2 minutes because they don't have the patience for me. And this is what we need to do. And then at the end of the day, we go back and check in. And I will tell you that the Schoology mobile app is much easier, honestly, than the one on the trying to do it on the desktop or on the laptop. So just a tidbit there.
All right, all right. I see you guys have a lot of questions in the comments. That's great. That's great. But unfortunately, we only have time for 1 or 2 more questions here. And definitely we'll get all these questions to our district leaders here to be answered for you guys, all right? And also all this information is being recorded. The PowerPoint will be also emailed to everybody that attended, okay, guys? So you'll have this information ready for you. Let me get to another question here. And this is one from one of our leaders, Jim Williams. This is a great question. So you guys know, even our leaders are fathers, right, and mothers, and they have kids, and we all have our own struggles, right? We all have our own questions. So here it is. This is a great info. Thank you. I'm warning, though, if there are some more resources on how we can balance our work and teaching our children. The more breaks in time I take from work, the more. Oh, whoa, did we just read that one? I think I just read that one. Right? Never mind. I totally messed up right now. That's not actually a Jim Williams question. He was actually sending that question for me to read. That was my mistake. Let me get you another question, okay? Oh, are teaching teams being set up to help out with online synchronistic learning? My son is in 3rd grade and he has 40 students in his class. It appears that the teacher has a difficult time working online. Working online, interactive system while leading the process live. Are teams being set up or planned to help improve the program? Maybe on tech host and 1 main instructor per session. That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And so, 40 is a good amount of students. And so, depending upon the age of students, being able to manage in that kind of environment can be a struggle to be recognized and to noticed, and for the teacher. So I think that I know in St. Vrain, we have an instructional technology coordinator and learning coaches in our secondary and elementary, and it's one of the really nice things about having our teachers working in the schools. That's one of the things that's very different from the spring for us. And so this way we are able to get support, instructional coaching out to our teachers right away. And so I think that, yes, we are providing lots of support to our teachers. And if you are feeling like that there needs to be some additional support, let that teacher know that you care. Noticing that is showing that you're caring, and we can help that teacher out as quickly as we can.
Margaret?
I would say that if that is a good amount of students, and we definitely have similar, we've got ed tech people and support systems in place that will help the teacher. And I would reach out to the teacher or the principal if you're not comfortable reaching out. I know sometimes people aren't comfortable with that, but it's really for support. We're not trying to penalize anyone. It's just a learning process. So definitely reach out.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for answering all that. That's all the time that we have, right? I want to actually give a little feedback on what I learned today, right? Because you guys keep hearing about my 3 pollitos, my little chickies, and some things that I'm taking away from me. Even though that I am a trained, certified family support worker, I've learned so much during this presentation right now. One of the things I really love is this quote, love before lessons, right? Value your son's health, their love, make sure that you're giving them love before forcing them to do anything else, right? Another thing is lots of breaks for children. That's great. Home can still be home, right? You don't have to switch it all up and make it uncomfortable for them. Leave it comfortable for them. So that's something that I learned. Create different nukes for them. Like that's something that I actually want to do. Create little different spots with them within the home where they can learn different things, right? And use open-ended questions. Oh my God, we're so good at this. We're fully trained in MI, right? This is what we do on the daily. we are so good at asking open-ended questions. So now we can do that with our children. Let's work our MI skills on our children. Why not, right? And the other one is Sandra's a great idea of the fridge idea, right? I love that. I love that idea, and I'm gonna start using that as soon as possible. I want to thank Diane, Margaret, Ben, Sandra. Who else am I missing? Diane? Mike. I want to thank you guys so much. We gave you a little bit of time to get this presentation ready, and man, you guys came back with a powerful presentation, very valuable. And I want to thank you guys. Thank you. And that's it. And before we go, guys, okay, because this is a lot of work. As you can see on the background, I have my pollito, and that's why I got a little bit confused here for a little bit. He's making a lot of noise. But it takes a lot of work to do these presentations now that I have witnessed this. And I want to give a special shout out to our staff, Susan Caskey, Mackenzie, Paul Janipor, and Jim Williams for being there in the background. It wasn't easy getting this started, guys, and these guys are phenomenal, and they got it going. And so I want to thank everybody. Thank you guys for being part of this presentation, and we'll see you on the flip side.